Welcome to the Sound Creator Podcast, where I explore the fascinating world of sound design and sound effects. I'm your host, Cedric Black, and in each episode, I dive deep into the art of creating unique audio experiences. Join me as I share my personal journey in sound design, from crafting realistic sound effects to building captivating soundscapes. On this show, I will dive into this unique art of sound that brings movies, games, and media to life. Welcome to the show. It is raining today. It is windy and it is thundering. Hopefully you don't hear it in the background, but it's just one of those days. So welcome to another episode of the Sound Creator Podcast. That's just where we are today, and the show must go on, and the show will continue in spite of anything that comes up. It's raining because I know that we need it. God knows that we need it. It's been hot, extremely hot where I live. It's been dry, very humid. So God chose this day to cool us off. And normally, the way my schedule is set up, the day that I record the podcast show is always the same day that I somehow manage to go outside and mow my lawn. But with the rain, now that's one thing I do appreciate. I'm glad that the rain came because I don't have to go out and do something that I don't really care to do. But it just means that the grass is going to grow higher, and I'll have to do it another day when I'm not scheduled to do it. And so this sort of throws off my vibe, so to speak. But nonetheless, that's life. That's how it is. That's how it goes. We can make plans all we want, but God often says differently, so we go with the flow. So in this episode, I wanted to look at something that I'm always talking about with people that I run into, people that ask me about sound design, or what this part of sound design, creating sounds. And something that I always mention to them is that the possibilities are just unlimited with the resources that we have to create sounds. Because the common question is, how do you get the sounds? Where do these sounds come from? How did you create something outside of the obvious sounds? A lot of times there are obvious sounds that I create, like I may record, capture the sound of a door lock or turning pages in a book. Those are obvious sounds. But the sound design behind that. So a lot of times I do capture sounds and I use them as a basis for other designs, for other sounds that I create. So the end result is something totally different than what the original sound source is. But the possibilities are so endless. So for example, I'm in my studio. I'm in my home studio right now. And I'm just looking around at all the things that I could use as sound sources to capture sounds and to create other sounds. Either one. I could spend easily an entire week in this one location. I'm just looking around right now. I'm looking at the blinds on the windows. I'm looking at the ceiling fan. And I don't know if you hear it now, but well, you probably can't because there's background music playing. But there's a fan that's running on my computer system. It's not loud if I stand far away from it, but the closer I am, because I'm sitting pretty close to it right now, but the closer I am to it, the louder that it is. So if I have a microphone that's close to it, I'll capture that fan. And I'm looking at my desk here. There's an ink pen on my desk. There's a USB drive that's sitting there. But they all make noise. They all have a sound. For example, not sure if you heard that, but if you did, all I did was just jostle around the ink pen and the USB drive together. So that's the sound. It's not much. It may not sound like much, but it can be used for creativity, for creative purposes in sound design, because there's so much that I can do with just that small amount. What else is here? I have headphones that's next to me, just a pair of headphones that I'm not using right now, but it makes sounds. It makes sounds. My headphones, and I'm just clamping the ears together. There's just so much. It's unlimited. I have a computer keyboard here. I can record the tapping of those keys, and I can jostle around in my chair. I can move my chair around. There's another desk behind me with paper and books sitting there that I need to clean. But just thinking about, or just visualizing what's there, jostling those things around, just as I did with the ink pen and the USB drive, makes all types of sounds. It's just unlimited. And the more I look around, the more I see just something simple like my closet door. Doesn't make a sound unless I cause it to make a sound. I could have a towel or anything, or just this ink pen that's on my desk again. I can just take the ink pen and scrape across the door in a slow manner, and it's going to create something. The door has doorknobs that I can turn and capture that sound. Whether I turn it quickly or slowly, both of those create two different types of sounds. I'm just looking around. I have a big plastic tube, not a plastic tube, but a plastic container. It's sitting on the floor. I've used it in one of my videos before, but I could use it. It creates a sound. If I just hit it, if I just tap on that plastic tube by itself, it creates a sound. Sort of a deep hollow sound. If I place some objects inside of that tube, if I place some things inside of that, just some things around here, I can crumble up some paper. Again, I could use my trusty old ink pen and drop it inside of that. Whatever else that's here that's loose that can fit in there is going to change the sound of that container. Whether I tap it again or whether I shake it or roll it around, it creates all these different sounds, these different nuances of textures that we use for sounds, that can be used for sounds, and that may not sound good most of the time. If you're not a sound person, if you don't hear sounds that way, it won't sound good to you. But to my ears, like I've said so many times before, every sound has a story. And think about the story behind the sounds of a plastic tube with different objects inside of them. Each one of those objects are associated with the end result. They tell a story. They're each one of those objects that I could place inside of that plastic tube contribute to the overall sound, the end result. There's a story behind that. Each object, Each separate piece has a story in itself, sort of like your family. If you think about your family, if you have a large family, if you come from a large family, your siblings, cousins, everybody that's related to you encompasses the overall picture of the family. So we think about that with sounds, with the unlimited sounds that we have. Each piece of your family has its own personality, has a story behind it. There's a story behind each one of us. We're all different, but we contribute to the whole. That's the family. We contribute to the family because it wouldn't be a family without the individual pieces. So a sound wouldn't be a sound without the individual pieces that make up that sound. So if you are someone that may be interested in sound design and creating your own sounds, and like I've said before, you don't need any equipment. I have a lot because that's what my job entails. I have to produce a lot of stuff, but use your cell phone. I've used my cell phone many of times when I'm away and don't have my normal microphones with me. If it's something I just have to capture, I will use my cell phone just so I don't miss it. Just look around. Whatever your environment is right now, whatever you're doing, wherever you're sitting, look around. It doesn't matter where you're sitting. If you're sitting in a corner, in a chair, on timeout, there are sounds there because you have objects. You have the wall, you'll have the chair. And if anything else, if you're trying it, if all else fails, you think that you run out of options with the wall and the chair, you always have yourself. You have your own voice. You have your hands. Like now, that's me rubbing my hands at the same time. The microphone cable, the headphone cable is rubbing against the microphone stand. I have snapping my fingers. You can blow, hum. There's so many ways. Like I said, I could spend 10 days talking to you about just pointing out sounds or combinations of sound that make sounds unlimited, that make the possibilities unlimited, but I can't. But just want to give you a quick overview just to speak about it briefly because it's unlimited. Wherever we go, there are sounds. We're surrounded by sounds because it's the world we live in. We live in a noisy society, in a noisy world that's constantly calling out to us, that's constantly speaking to us. We just have to recognize it. That's it for this episode. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And we'll see you next week on another episode. Thanks for listening. If you found value in what you've heard, I kindly ask you to spread the word about the Sound Creator Podcast. Share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone who shares your fascination for the power of sound. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform so you never miss an episode. You can also stay connected with me through my main website at cedricblack.com or at cedblack on Instagram. Thank you once again for being part of this incredible journey. I look forward to bringing you more captivating episodes in the future. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and let the light be your